guys, this is Justin, and before we begin, I do just want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. I'm recording this over Christmas, so I thought instead of a video where I deep dive one particular aspect of the lore, I would more broadly approach a topic, and the genesis of this comes from a tweet by Darth Maul. Now, I'm going to be saying some things that disagree with Maul here, but generally, and I also know he's a fan of mine, I think he's pretty much spot on. He says, I don't understand the new rules of Star Wars. Why do MFs get stabbed and walk it off like nothing? Showing, of course, Sabine getting stabbed, Reva getting stabbed one of a couple of times in Kenobi, and I mean, we could go beyond that. There's also the Grand Inquisitor, even Cal in Jedi Survivor, but to me, the issue is more than just stab wounds, although taking away some of the drama of lightsaber battles is definitely one particular issue. The broader problem is the minimization of stakes. And yes, this is something that Star Wars canon has been bad about. Writers want both the payoff of threatening to kill, or even in the minds of the reader temporarily actually killing a character, while shirking the responsibility of having to actually deal with it. Like, it's not usually side characters or characters who don't have this emotional attachment who are fake out killed, and that's pretty obvious. Like, The Rise of Skywalker did this with Chewbacca. They did it with C-3PO. Both cases where we thought, hey, we might lose a beloved character, or we just lost a beloved character, but no, they step back from the edge while trying to get that little emotional payout. And there are many more examples of this in Star Wars. We'll come back to that, but I do want to refute the idea that this was simply a new Star Wars problem, because it's not. And some of these cases are also more egregious than others. Like, Sabine's Taken on its own, I don't really have a problem with. Yes, she got stabbed in the stomach, she immediately got treatment. I think it was pretty clear she was going to survive. The problem is it came in the midst of like Stab Fest early 2020s, where everyone in Star Wars was getting stabbed and surviving. But I mean, the fake out death also existed in Star Wars Legends. I actually quote tweeted Darth Maul and pointed out that his statement is somewhat ironic given the fact that in Legacy of the Force, Jacen Solo, the character his account is named after, does something very similar in a duel with Kyle Katarn. Katarn now stood so close to Kaitis that every facial feature was visible, every scar and line in his weathered face, every hair on his brow, mustache, and beard. Kaitis felt a rush of satisfaction, enjoyment, as Katarn's expression turned from one of surprise to pain. Katarn looked down to see Kaitis' lightsaber buried to its hilt in his chest. A noise, something halfway between a groan and a death rattle, emerged from Katarn's lips. Smiling, Kaitis yanked his lightsaber free and let the stricken Jedi Master fall face first on the pavement. Shocker, despite the apparent death of Kyle Katarn, he would survive that scene. He goes to Endor, where he's healed by Silgal, who is often the healer for main characters injured or sick in Star Wars. We see here do the same thing sort of with Mon Mothma when it looks like she's a goner. Other characters are stabbed, they survive. There are many other death fakeouts, often involving Jacen Solo, but even Luke Skywalker gets one in Fate of the Jedi. I can't remember the exact book. It's not really worth looking up right now, but do you think Luke's X-Wing has been destroyed with him in it? I believe that Jaina thinks that she's done it. He survives, of course. Yeah, it's just sort of a cheap way to add some drama without actually having to do anything. Like, Kyle Katarn isn't really changed by this experience, and it really makes no difference. Like, sometimes they will have the characters react or change due to losing their fight and being grievously injured. Oh, grievously injured, I get it now. But for example, in Ahsoka, it's a motivator for Sabine to continue training. Jacen almost dying a million times should be a motivator for his parents to give a shit. In Legends, they generally don't. But the issue really goes beyond kind of the ones we've talked, and it's sort of a part of Star Wars DNA, really. I think this can really be traced to Luke losing his hand in The Empire Strikes Back. Like, sure, he loses his hand, but practically it's got no effect on his character moving forward, aside from the emotional toll that losing the fight has on Luke generally. He loses his hand, the hand he gets in replacement does pretty much everything just as well. And of course, if that were the only time it happened, not a big deal, kind of cool even. But of course, it isn't. The other really famous example is Darth Maul. He should have died. Listen, I like Darth Maul's storyline. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars Rebels and of course the Clone Wars as well. I think he's a great addition to both shows, but his existence and his return is clearly a case where George Lucas regretted a past decision and basically took the easy way out. Yes, Darth Maul shouldn't have been killed in The Phantom Menace. He could have played into the rest of the Star Wars prequel prequels, and that probably would have helped with their cohesion a little bit, but the choice was made to remove what is a pretty obvious death. I mean, the dude's cut in half, he's going down a pit. It's just kind of lame. And it's this reason why when Sabine is stabbed in Ahsoka and the episode ends, you just shake your head, because yeah, they're gonna undo that. Losing a lightsaber fight, losing a blaster fight, losing a hand-to-hand combat in universe needs to have consequence, or else why do you care to watch? It's interesting because in the mythos, there are examples of how you can bring a character back from the edge of death while still making that experience important for more than just, oh, this is why the character is motivated. For example, in Plagueis, we see how Plagueis deals with an almost successful assassination attempt resulting in the loss of his jaw. Darth Vader, he's a great example of how his loss has transformed his life moving forward, as is Darth Sion. And that's kind of the thing about Maul. I like his story, but the too angry to die thing, I guess, but I think that needs to dominate his character, and I just feel like in the Clone Wars, they move away from that in order to tell a story that probably could have been filled by another character. I think they get closer in Star Wars Rebels, although there's obviously some intervening events there. Those are my thoughts anyways. Let me know yours down below.